Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox and Sam Silverstein back again for our continuing exploration of how to make a cultural comeback. Sam, welcome back.
Hey, Tom, I'm excited about our conversation today.
Sam, in this episode 3, we're going to take up something near and dear to both of our hearts, which is how do you assess culture? So I want to start with, could you introduce us to the concept of assessing culture through a cultural audit?
Well, it's Tom, if you went to the doctor, you weren't feeling well, you go to the doctor, and the doctor, you walked in, you said, "Doc, I'm not feeling well." He says, "Here, take these 3 times a day for the next 2 weeks, and then let me know how you're doing." You'd run from that doctor because the doctor's prescribing what to do without even knowing. And not only that, you probably go to the doctor once a year, even though things are fine. And because you're just doing a checkup, you want to know if something's going on. I go to the dermatologist once a year. I went last week. Guess what? She found 2 things that she needed to freeze because she said they were precancerous. I didn't even know they were there. But I go once a year because I want to know what's going on. I need a full assessment. And so does a leader in an organization. And that's why we created the culture audit with the idea that at least once a year, we can assess an organization's culture to see what's going on, to see what's working, to see what's not, what needs to be shored up. And so it's really important to take the time to do a formal assessment to understand everything that's going on under the hood in your workplace culture.
Sam, I want you to envision a U.S. multinational with manufacturing facilities in the United States and outside the United States. They say that the company's formal language for all business communications is English, but the reality is, for many people, English is a second language. How, from a methodological perspective, would you suggest that a company use the culture audit?
Here's an interesting thing. We have a client in South Dakota, for instance, one location, but in their manufacturing facility, 4 different languages are spoken on the production floor because immigrants from around the world have settled there in South Dakota. So you don't even have to be multinational to have multiple languages. And if you're going to take an assessment, it's always best if an individual can take the assessment in their native language because the depth of understanding is so much greater. And so that's why with the culture audit, we created it in 20 different languages, and we're always adding new languages when our clients request. But with 20 different languages, everyone has the opportunity to pick their language so they can fully understand the questions and then answer them as accurately as possible, because I want accurate information. If I'm sitting down with a CEO of a multinational organization and I'm sharing with her what's going on in her company, I want to be able to share the facts. There can be no, well, maybes or what ifs. No, these are the facts based on excellent data.
Sam, there's some known strategies or techniques to assess culture, small informal interview groups or formal interview groups, town halls, larger groups that you might speak to. How is the culture audit different than those strategies or techniques?
All those strategies and techniques bring value to the table. And I don't want to speak negative to any of them, but our focus is this. We want something that's easy. We want something that's quick. Of course, it needs to be accurate. We need something that's totally anonymous. And so even in an environment where it's one-on-one, it's a town hall, we're not going to share people are still having to share something live and in person. And so with us, everyone in an organization gets the same link. We have no way of knowing who's filled out what. We don't want to know. We want it totally anonymous. And so literally everyone in Dubuque, Iowa, and everyone in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia have the opportunity to share their feelings, their experience, and then we take that data, and with that data, we're able to create an overview and a full understanding of what's going in the culture. So I find this to be the most cost-effective, the most efficient, and certainly, in my opinion, the most accurate way to get the information that we need.
Sam, why is anonymity, or how can it be such a powerful tool to assess culture?
So we hear stories all the time about whistleblowers and retaliation, and some environments just don't support giving feedback. When it's anonymous, we eliminate all that. so that people don't have to worry about what they shared or what they say. They don't have to worry about retaliation. So ultimately, they can share the truth because that's what we want. Here's the thing, Tom. I really don't care when we do a culture audit with an organization. I don't care what the results are. What I care about, does leadership want to make a better organization? If they want to make a better organization, we need to know the truth because we can't get from here to here if we don't know that we are here, that we really are here. Because if we're trying to get here and we're really here or here, then we're going to come up with the wrong plan. But if we know where we truly are, then it's just a matter of closing this gap, and that's much easier to do. So I just want the truth. By having it be anonymous, we feel that we're going to get as close to the truth and real numbers as we possibly can.
Sam, could you go through some of the areas the culture audit assesses and why you think either those are critical or they would help to build a more effective culture?
We look at the overall culture and we come back with a score on the overall culture. We also come back with what we call the accountability index because we're the only organization that I'm aware of that actually can measure accountability within an organization. And accountability is just key. And it's something that we work hand in hand with leadership team and what to do with that information. But in addition to that, we look at the organization beliefs and values. Are the values established and are they lived in an organization? We look at focus. What are the people in the organization focused on? Are they focused on the things they cannot control and get bogged down? Or are they focused on what they can control so they can move forward? Do they know the mission? Is it clear? Are people valued in this organization? Are they making quality decisions? We actually measure whether or not people are making quality decisions. Employee engagement, which is kind of standard in this sort of thing. You need to know what your employee engagement is. Speed of implementation. How quickly are people able to make decisions and implement? The level of trust in the organization, the quality of the communication in the organization. Is there an environment of innovation and change? We measure safety, but we measure emotional safety because when people are emotionally safe, they work faster, they're more productive, and they're more loyal. Is this a culture of ethics? And then we also measure stress in the workplace. So as you can see, we measure a lot. We can't think of anything else to measure, or we probably would have put it in there, Tom.
So, Sam, what does someone who takes or uses the culture audit receive back that they can then begin to think about moving forward?
So what we do is once the assessment's done and we allow respondents to also put their thoughts in besides going through the standard questions that we have, we create an executive report, which is about 125 pages actually prior to all the comments that individuals can and will make. And in there, we look at the data from a high level and a dashboard level. And then for those that want to go deeper, we go into a deeper analysis of the data. But then we go to an action plan. So each area that we measure contains an action plan because just learning about your culture isn't enough. You need to know what to do moving forward to make it better. And so we create that action plan so that teams of individuals within an organization can then look for ways, or we can help them look for ways to implement that action plan to get the results they want to get.
Let me pick up on your last point, which was we can help them. So, do you sit down or could you sit down with the senior leadership and go through and point out areas of strength, areas of weakness, areas perhaps they could actually build upon to overcome some of the areas of weakness? How would that conversation go?
That's an important conversation because, quite frankly, we know what we know, and having an outside view or outside look into the organization can bring a lot of value. What I want to do is help a leader understand truly what can be. Many times we set self-limiting factors for ourselves or for organization. And so I just want, to me, again, wherever we are, that's okay. But how do we get better? And so our experience in working with organizations and seeing many different types of cultures and ones that are working and ones that aren't, and why the ones that are working and why the ones that aren't, I love to have the opportunity to be able to share that with a leader because I want to help them on their journey. And then either long term, we can work with them to help them step this out or work with their team, or we can train people internally and certify them on our methodology so that they can step it out. And then, of course, come back in a year and reassess, because now not only do we know what we need to do to move forward, but that initial assessment is a stake. We know where we started. A year from now, we can see where we've improved or where we haven't improved and where we need to refocus moving forward.
Sam, as a lawyer, I have to say a few words about documentation and should a regulator come knocking. And one of the key elements of the culture audit is exactly what you've described, a documented report that gives both a score, both recommendations. It's that stake that you can move from or move forward. And what the regulators tell us they want to see is, yes, assess the problem, but come up with an answer to that problem or a response to that problem, and then remediate based upon the answer or response you've come up with. Is it fair to say the culture audit meets those regulatory requirements of document?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we have it, is to meet those requirements so that leadership has that in place. However, Tom, do we want to help leaders meet regulatory requirements? You bet. But even more important than that, we want them to want to have the best possible culture. We want them to create an environment where people are naturally making ethical decisions, where people are doing the right things. And by stepping through this, that's what's going to happen.
Sam, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode, but I hope our listeners will join us for episode 4, where we take up a cultural change strategy and the implementation. Sam, I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation.
As always, we're just going to continue to go deeper and share what hopefully is going to make a difference for a lot of people.